Everyone, we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to have a moment of silence, please, for men and women in uniform. We probably should include first responders and folks on the front line. Thank you. Okay, we have Chris Farmer, John Madigan, and am I going to be seeing pictures for everybody who's in the Zoom meeting? Pete?
If they're not joined by video, you're not going to see them.
John might have his camera.
Did you see if John's on?
Yeah, I see you, Steve. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I just can't see you. That's okay.
You see me? Yeah, I don't know.
I see Catherine, Margie, Mark Beauregard, Chris Farmer.
Switch to gallery view.
I hear John Madigan. I just don't see you. Okay.
I don't know why.
We'll call the meeting to order at 2 minutes after 6, 3 minutes after 6. We have a few adjustments to the agenda. Tracy.
Add an event permit for Chris Farmer's daughter's graduation party to number 6.
Put that on to number 6.
An executive session 4056A for personnel.
Okay. For those of you, if you didn't hear it, we have 2 adjustments to the agenda. There's an event permit for High Street. Is that correct? Chris Farmer's High Street, and then an executive again. Okay. I need a motion to approve, review and approve the minutes for May 4th.
Go back and see. You can see now. I think you can see now.
There we go.
Move back.
Motion for minutes for May 4th.
All right, I'm on now, I guess.
Review. I didn't hear you.
I wasn't here.
Okay.
Says I wasn't here, but it wasn't. It doesn't say anything. No, just left me off.
I'll make a motion as well. If we don't have enough people.
We don't. Let's go to May 11th. I know you guys are all here on May 11th.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we approve the Board of Selectmen's meetings for Monday, May 11, 2020, with any corrections or additions.
Second.
Any changes, corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Public to speak under non-agenda items. Anything from Mark Beauregard? Chris Farmer? No? Hi, Catherine. Anything from you? Catherine? Catherine? Just shake your head, yes or no? Okay, unmute yourself. There you are.
I just wanted to say hello to everyone and to say I'm out stuck in Tucson, but I've been following developments in Rangeley via Facebook and friends of mine that are there. And I just wanted to say that it is extremely impressive from the outside to see how well everyone has come together to protect the community of Rangeley. The camaraderie and community spirit is incredible. And to say also that all of the folks that I've spoken with who are coming there because they're seasonal homeowners and they're coming back to Rangeley, I've spoken with 3 groups of them recently, and all of them are very much supportive of the quarantine and are willing to do whatever it takes to abide by those regulations.
Thank you, Catherine. Nice to hear. Margie, do you have anything under public to speak? Yes or no, Margie? Shake your head. Hello. Okay. Amanda Christensen.
I'm
Christian,
just
excuse me.
here to partake in what goes on. Thank you. I have nothing to speak on.
Anything from David Haley? Anything from Brian Thomas? Brian, if you have something to say, you got on, there you go.
Nothing here, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Moving on. Boards and committees, we have reports from the Sewer Commission's regular meeting, the Sewer Commission commitment, Planning Board regular meeting. Questions or comments? Next up, consent items. We have a liquor license application for Forks in the Air. I need a
I'm
motion.
gonna make a motion, we approve the liquor license for Forks in the Air. Starting on expiration is 4/20.
Second.
Questions, comments? All set? All in favor?
All right.
4 of us. Country Club Inn.
Mr. Chair, I'll make no motion that we approve the liquor license renewal for the Country Club Inn at Rangeley Inc., doing business as the Country Club Inn. as presented.
Ooh. Questions for Margie? All in favor? You've been approved, young lady. Thank you, Margie. Do you have any questions, Margie? No? Okay. Red onion. ×2.
Motion to approve liquor license renewal application for the Red Onion Restaurant Inc.
Moved and seconded. Questions, comments? Hearing none. All in favor? 4. Thank you. Next up is ME 800 FAA Cares Grant Funding. Tracy, you want to? Sorry?
This second one for the Red Onion looks like it's for off-premise.
Thought we did them both. I said red onion ×2. Let's do the other one. Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the off-premise liquor license application renewal for the Red Onion.
Okay. All in favor? You in favor, Don? Okay. Okay. FAA Cares Grant Funding for $20,000 for town of Rangeley. Everybody read through that?
Sounds like a good deal.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah. I'm not.
Need a motion.
Are we authorizing John or Tracy to sign?
Either. Make it Tracy. Easier.
I'll make a motion to approve the CARES, FAA CARES funding application to be signed by Tracy Pitts Lavoy on behalf of the town of Rangeley.
Second. Discussion? All in favor? So moved. Overlook sidewalk modification, inflation factor, authorize the town, assistant town manager to sign.
I'll make a motion to approve the Maine Department of Transportation modification 2 to agreement for a locally administered federal aid project for the town of Rangeley regarding the new sidewalk along Main Street.
Second.
Cindy? Tony? Any discussion? I just want you guys to know I'm still not in favor of this.
I am. I was asked to bring that discussion. I think you and I had a dialogue about it, and I am in favor.
Yep. Okay, all in favor? 3 in favor, 1 opposed. Okay, septic solid waste contract from Heather and her husband,
Is this a new contract? Am I?
Brenda.
So they were, in the workings of this, they were looking for, there was some talk about negotiating down the cost of it since they are looking to have a higher camp season. But after I talked to Keith, I think what we decided to do is to not so much look at that until after the camp season's over. Because we don't want to do great. I mean, I'm not necessarily on this, so we're not going to people they're getting. So you want to add to that, Keith?
I think that's right. That price is shows 3% increase of what we anticipated ourselves looking at the contract this year. For them, it's only a $50 increase in what their contract would be. And again, I agree with Tracy that I think it's wise to look at. There is a need next year to negotiate the price change that to show that restricted level for the labor.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
So just, so how is it being tracked?
That's going to be the interesting part I have to discuss with Heather and Randy and Rich. Obviously, right now it's based on a 20 load,
6-yard dumpster?
20 load agreement.
20 load agreement. Thank you. So I'm going to have to kind of work with Archie and see how many times they pick up, or tell Randy how their schedule is with dumpster capacity. They generally have a quarter dumpster, then we have to kind of participate here. So it's difficult.
Right.
Obviously recycling plays a factor in all this too. It really doesn't get shown.
Bless you.
That too.
All right, thank you. Anything else? Need a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the contract for solid waste disposal with septic campground as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any more discussion? John, do you have anything to add on that?
No, I don't. Not on that.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Thank you. All right, next up is an event on High Street for Lulu. We got to do it. Any questions about this before I make a motion? All right, I move we allow the event permit for Mr. Farmer and the graduation party on High Street. All the dates are in, all the times, et cetera, in 2 p.m. to 10.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor? All set, Mr. Farmer?
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. We have a correspondence from Mr. Beauregard about the CEO budget summer assistant. Thank you, Mark, for the letter. I appreciate it. We also made sure that the Tom Lillis got a copy of your very complimentary letter.
Yeah, you're welcome. I guess when I saw number 10 on the agenda, I realized my timing was off.
It's okay. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate the letter. Next up, solar array, Revision Energy, Nick Sampson.
Is Nick here?
Where are you, Nick? There you are. Hi, Nick. Nick, do you have a brief summary of anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, just very quickly. First of all, thanks for inviting me, and I hope everyone's doing well and, staying healthy and safe. I just wanted to say things are still moving along with the project that we've proposed to the town of Rangeley, and I think I guess all that we would be interested in when the town's ready and has completed its review process is just getting an idea if the town thinks it wants to move forward with some of its load or all of its load on this project, and if so, how much of its electricity consumption it would like to target offsetting with this project.
Thank you. Any questions for Nick?
Steve, I have a question.
Yep, go ahead, John.
From last week's meetings, one of the, I believe it was the group from Saddleback. And they were talking about, yeah, it would make sense for us to share not only with your situation, but with Saddleback as well. And I wonder how that would work, because I'm assuming that we're going to be purchasing all of our energy needs for the town of Rangeley from the solar array.
But so that's a great question, John. So you could split it up if you want to. So with what we've proposed currently, we've proposed producing about 800,000, a little more than 800,000 kilowatt hours of electricity solar electricity for town. And that would offset the majority of your annual electricity costs. But if you wanted to, I think it's awesome that Saddleback's doing a project, and really great that you have the opportunity to partner with Saddleback. So if you wanted to, you could split up your accounts where you're offsetting maybe like half of your accounts with this project and then half of your accounts with the Saddleback project.
Okay, does that have to be done now before we sign a contract, or can that be amended later when Saddleback actually does something? Because I believe the townspeople in Rangeley would like to help Saddleback any way they can, so.
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually a really good question. I'd have to check with our legal team. I imagine because I would imagine that we would probably prefer that the decision be made ahead of time, ahead of the contract being signed versus, once another project comes online. I think, say a situation comes up where, down the road, all of a sudden you need to reduce how much solar you're buying and change some accounts that you're offsetting. There certainly are opportunities to do that, but I would say going into the project with the plan of reducing how much solar you want to purchase like a year or two in, probably would not be, we wouldn't recommend it. So making a decision ahead of time on how much you'd like to offset would be helpful for moving forward with the project.
Okay, but right now your proposal would require us to purchase all of our electricity needs from the Skowhegan.
It would, but if you decide that you want to do 50% or say or 2/3 or 1/3 with the current project, we could scale that back before you sign it. So I think I was talking with Tracy, and one thing we were saying is if the board approves her signing the contract once we change the production amount, we could, if they approve the idea of moving forward with 50% cost offset with this project, we could adjust the contract accordingly before you sign it.
All right, I have two questions up there, but hang on for just a second, both of you. My thoughts were on this thing to go 60/40. To start off with 60% for revision and then say 40 for Saddleback, unless we think Saddleback's going to be too far down the line to make it work well for the way.
The initial thought is that it would be too far down.
Yeah, you may be right. What do you think, Dave?
And you never know if we're even gonna get there.
Yeah.
Is there a guarantee of Saddleback's even?
I can't hear you.
There is none.
There's nothing on the list.
I didn't hear the question.
So is there a guarantee Saddleback's even gonna do something?
No guarantee yet, just they're making applications. Let's see what they have to say.
Yeah.
Chris Farmer, you were first, go ahead.
Thank you. I've worked on energy contracts for years, especially dealing with Saddleback. I was managing that, negotiating those. And what you probably could do, and I'm not sure if Revision would go with that, is work out a minimum kilowatt hours to purchase based on whether you decide on the Saddleback project, whether you want to be 50% or 40 or 50, but a minimum purchase rate of which you work out so that way until Saddleback comes online, or if the pricing isn't quite there, you've got maximum flexibility because you're agreeing to purchase a minimum for revision. That will also give revision something that they can bank on, both from a financial standpoint and there, that they have a minimum commitment to you of X amount of kilowatts per year. And then some other kind of sliding factor to deal with whether or not you buy the remaining kilowatts needed for the town through them or through some other entity. Then they know that they're locked in, at least on the 20-year term, a certain percentage guaranteed. And I would think that that should be able to be negotiated depending on the business model, unless for some reason revision can't go forward unless they have X amount of kilowatts already there. The risk that you take is with a minimum purchase, they're going to want some flexibility on their side that they can fill that in with other customers. So you could be in a situation where you are still buying from another source, which may not be as economically beneficial. So the challenge I think you have is wanting to be as supportive with whatever projects are out there, but you're going to have, at some point, you're going to have to say, as they all say, you have to fish or cut bait. But I think if you did a hybrid with that, I think you'd have, if Revision's willing to look at that and say, look, the town of Rangeley will commit a minimum of X amount, which may be the final amount which you agree to do if both the Saddleback and their project exists. But in the time frame, you'll buy more based on the fact you don't need it from those other sources.
Thank you, Mark.
Oh.
Mark?
Yes. Yeah, on the Saddleback proposal, it might be worth asking if their power generated by solar would be available on a year-round basis, because my understanding is that those ski area solars, sometimes they need 100% of what they generate in the wintertime while they're running all their pumps and making snow and that type of thing. So they may not have excess power to sell in the winter. But how that would, whether that's true or not, I'm not certain. But that way, if there wasn't any available in the winter and you could purchase it from Revision in the wintertime, and in the summertime, maybe split it seasonally depending on the town's needs and the availability. Just try to look into it a little more to see if any of these issues are relevant.
Nick, would you like to respond to either one of those, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So I might work with the second point. So Mark's point first, and then go back to Chris's. I'll go in opposite order if that's all right. So on this, when you enter into a power purchase agreement, whether it's for this project that Revision has proposed or the Saddleback project, you will be entering into an agreement to purchase solar electricity for on an annual, well, on a quarterly basis for usually 20 years from the investor who owns that and operates that system. And the system will be sized basically to, when you go into it, to offset Saddleback and a certain portion of Saddleback's and the towns and any other customers' electricity consumption that's involved in that agreement. And the way that they'll distribute their credits is each month they'll each customer that's a part of that system will receive whatever percentage of those credits they've agreed to purchase and signed up to purchase from that system. So each month you would receive, say the town of Rangeley is signed up for 25% of the solar production, and Saddleback signed up for 75%. And it's a simple agreement like that, and it's to just the town and Saddleback in the agreement. Each month, the town would receive 25% of the solar production, and and Saddleback would receive 75% of the solar production. And the production would be received as credits on your bills. And so over the course of the year, the town would be offsetting 25 or the town would receive 25% of the solar credits produced by the array, and that would be used to offset its CMP bills. And same thing for Saddleback, just 75% of the solar production. So it's not as dynamic as Saddleback using the power directly or using the credits directly when it's consistent with its load. It would if Saddleback is receiving credits, say it has lower usage in the summertime and receives a bunch of credits that it can't use, it builds those credits up in a credit bank so that it can use those solar credits during the winter time when it's using more electricity and maybe not meeting all of its demand with the solar credits that are being generated during the winter time, if that makes sense. So it's more it's more a little more concrete when you agree to purchase like a certain percentage of the solar production through a power purchase agreement. So it doesn't have the dynamic of needing to either to buy electricity from other systems. And then to address Chris's point, I think that's a great idea, and it sounds like what Chris is discussing is signing up for third-party supply contracts with like a third-party supplier where you're agreeing to buy a certain amount of electricity from a third-party supplier at a set rate for a couple of years. And I will just mention that the solar power purchase agreements are a little bit different, where they're also not as dynamic as that, and the investors and the owners of these systems are looking basically to have to make sure that that all of their solar production is accounted for and signed up for and being sent to a specific customer, rather than and they aren't as interested in basically changing the amount that's sold routinely to its different customers signed up for that agreement. So the way they usually work is if you were to sign up and sign a contract, you'd be signing up for a specific percentage, as I mentioned, of that solar arrays production that would be given to you on a monthly, allocated to the town on a monthly basis, and you'd pay for probably on a quarterly basis to the investor. So if we wanted to give the town the opportunity to sign up for a minimum of credits for this array that we've proposed, and then have the opportunity to buy into the Saddleback array, the way we would probably have to do that would be to have the town sign a power purchase agreement, and then right before we get close to starting construction of the array, finalize up the amount of electricity solar electricity that the town would like to purchase from that array, and then have that kind of final amount before the investor and before we start building the project, versus changing how much the town is buying from that project once it's already constructed. So since we're close to starting construction for this system, and the investors want to make sure that they have enough customers for 100% of the solar production, I'd say that it's a little challenging to add flexibility into how much the town is purchasing once you sign the power purchase agreement. Does that make sense?
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions from all of you?
My guess, I feel like we should just go with this and not count on Saddleback, because there's too many what ifs with the Saddleback. We don't know if there's gonna be a project. We don't know what they're gonna have for available. They may need it all for what they're doing on Mountain.
We got a thing right here in front of us. I think we're gonna do it.
I agree with Dave. I just really think this is what Revision does. It's all they do. And I agree with every point that he made.
I agree also. I trust what Nick tells us. A lot of these companies, we quite a bit about solar, and everyone says that they are an upfront company, stand-up guys, they know what they're doing.
Okay. Thank you. John, anything from you?
I don't know enough about this. It's a whole new thing for me. All the years I've been involved, it's, roads and, town government, but solar power is brand new. I would rely on Nick and certainly what our attorney put together. He outlined some of the risks that might be involved, and I think he's given us good advice.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Make a motion.
I'll make a motion that we go 100% with the revision.
Second.
Any more discussion on it? Yes.
I will need to be authorized to sign on behalf of the
Okay.
town.
With the motion.
So move.
Second.
Thank you. Anything else?
I would just like to really thank Nick for his patience with us and how long it's taken to get to this point.
We'll give you kudos. Second, if you oppose.
This is
Yes.
this is normal timeline. So you've all been great to work with. So thank you very much.
Okay.
One question I didn't remember the letter Nick mentioned.
Nice and loud so they can hear you.
Nick, last time I recall in the meeting, maybe I'm misunderstanding it. You had mentioned the idea of you possibly, I don't want to say oversold the site, but there was a potential that we couldn't get the necessary kilowatts needed. Is that still true?
It is. So what our plan is to do is to basically our communication with all the towns that have been interested in purchasing or buying into this power purchase agreement for this specific project has been that we're treating it on a first come first served basis, and so if you sign when there's space, you're into the project, and if you don't, we'll sign you up for our next available or most future site. And so we've been thinking, we want to try to include everybody. So what if we scale back the production for each town and let everybody in? And we've been realizing that might not meet production goals for each town. And so what we've decided to do is stay consistent with what our messaging has been and do a first come first served basis. So as of tonight, there's still space in this project, and so if the town decides to move forward and sign the contract, unless all of a sudden there have been a bunch of contracts that came in today, which I'm unaware of, the town would be into this project.
All right, thank you, Nick. Any more discussion here? All in favor? Okay, thank you, Nick, appreciate it. And being patient with us, as Cindy said, we all appreciate your hard work.
Oh, well, yeah, thank you so much for all of your hard work as well, and having me to the meetings. It's been a pleasure working with you, so thank you very much. And so I'll coordinate with Tracy on providing a signature ready contract. Does that sound right?
Yeah, Tracy's got the authorization to sign. You can give her a call tomorrow and work out the details.
Thanks so much. We're really excited to work with the town.
All right, if you get a raise, come spend some of that money in Rangeley.
I certainly will. I love spending time up there, so thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Next up.
Have a great night.
You too. Next up is Ordinance Committee on Sewer Ordinance. Remove the requirement for Sewer Committee to sign a contract. Everybody read through that, see that legislation a few years ago took that out, so it's not a necessity. Tracy, you want to give a little background on that?
Sure. So back in 2015-16, when I took over being the sewer commission secretary, we were having a problem getting quorum together, even to sign a commitment, which is a hindrance to send out the sewer buildings. So it was really problematic. And that's about the same time that the legislature changed to where commissions do not have to sign the commitment, but we are ordinance into having to sign it. So the ordinance committee just would like to have that verbiage reworked, take that requirement out. This supervision that we have now is very good about things, but it really isn't. And they look to keep for any questions that they have on it. It's, they don't have a lot of input, or I think it's just an unnecessary step. And you pay them to come meet to sign it, where it's really kind of unnecessary. So the sewer commission motion to have y'all send it to the ordinance committee to try and figure out the correct verbiage, and then we can have a town attorney look to it and put it to vote this fall in November. If everyone's in agreement.
Any questions on this? Have a motion, please.
I'll make a motion to remove the requirement of the sewer committee to sign the commitment.
Send the ordinance committee.
Send it to the ordinance committee, exactly.
Second. Who seconded it? I did. Any more discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Thank you. We haven't, Chris, this is, next up is a letter to the citizens on COVID-19. You might give a brief description of how we got to this point?
Sure, Steve. What we're trying to accomplish with that letter is a lot of, been a lot of unknowns the past 3 or 4 weeks, and different towns and different regions are taking different approaches to this. As you saw, Calais has one approach, Portland's taken a different approach, all of that. And so we started working on this is kind of encouraging, so you guys can kind of set the stage and a little bit set the attitude, because I think there's been some challenges locally with some folks that are very concerned about people coming from away and how this is going to work and those pieces. But, you know, our community is made up of 800 people in the off season and 10,000 plus in the summer season. And I think it would be very, I don't know, kind of not really what we're all about here if we said, geez, we don't want anybody to come to their second home. So what we tried to outline in this letter was to kind of say, you know, we're on top of it. It's a municipality. We're working through these things. And just kind of maybe a little attitude adjustment about everybody about, you know, look out for your fellow neighbors. We've done the Friends Helping Friends has done an incredible job meeting some of those needs. Most of that's wrapped up recently, and now we're moving towards businesses opening and trying to get settled in and training employees and trying to get ready for this summer season and outlining to remind people in general that, you know, if you are coming from away, we've done a really good job this past 3 months of keeping our community safe and working within the guidelines as people start coming in, but there's going to be a lot bigger influx in the next 45 days. And everyone just needs to kind of work together. It isn't a tattletale type thing. It's more of a, let's try to mutually educate everybody.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions on this letter? Any direction, do you think, in regards to the premise of this? Yes.
Would this be something that would be sent out like in a Chamber of Commerce blast, or how is this going to be circulated out?
Chris, listening carefully now to what I have to say to make sure I don't go off track here. When we originally put this together, these business people together, we recognized that Maine is struggling to address rural aid. There was some mention of it in all of the vocabulary we received from them and directions we received from them, but nothing specific enough for us to hang our hats on here in Rangeley and be assured that there would be business opening here, hopefully before Memorial Day. So the push was to set the tone. And this is the starting point. Next up, in my opinion, and I think Chris will echo this, is to put out some guidelines that either match exactly with the recommendations from the CDC here in Maine, or increase it if we see some areas that aren't being addressed that need to be. So if the board of selectmen agree with this premise, we'll get the businessmen and women back together and go to the next step and bring it back to the board.
So what I think Tracy's asking, is this letter going to be mailed out with the selectmen all signing it? Is that how this is going to be distributed?
I don't know that it needs to be publicly distributed yet when we formulate the guidelines. Say, for instance, do you hear me, Chris?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay, hang on, I'm not quite done. I want to make sure you're following though. The next step will be, let's just pick one example, the theater. We heard from Val and Jeff Kowalski that the theater, they're struggling because there's no guidelines coming out of Augusta. If we were to direct some guidelines and then send it off to Augusta, say, this is what Rangeley is trying to do to help this business because it's different than theaters, not only movie, but plays and things of that nature in other parts of the area, because I mean, they can only hold so many people. And so they can give us their plans, which they have done. And then if we adopt all of those different plans, then we have our package. We ship it on down, and maybe we can move this all forward faster. That's the idea. This is the starting point. Questions?
Can't hurt.
Anything you want to add to that, Chris?
I think one of the things we've talked about doing is putting together a Dropbox with the select person's permission that if anyone does a plan or they're working on their own guidelines, that it can be dropped into a common source that's accessible to all business owners and people to understand what various businesses are doing, so that way, if someone has a business but they're not quite ready to open yet, but want to be able to have some resources to pull from, they can look at some of these other plans along with the state guidelines. When we started this 3 weeks ago, this letter, there was no guidelines out there at all. And now there are for several types of businesses. So part of what I think the plan is that's got to be worked on the town part is more about information sharing and just setting up a vehicle for if citizens have concern that they can provide that into the municipality, and the municipality can figure out how to go forward. I personally think the less that the municipality gets into directing or adjusting any guidelines, probably the better. But if things are developed that seem to be a trend, which we think puts the community at risk, then that would be a subject to talk about. The idea is to put a construct in place so that we can start working from that, so that way we can also help identify if there are some challenges and be prepared if for some reason things do go awry, that we have a way to, CDC comes in and says, well, we had an outbreak at this business. We have a copy on file of their guidelines that exist, those type of things. But I think that this is changing every day, what's going on, and which makes it hard. It's a moving target. And like I said, the whole premise of the letter was kind of just set an attitude and set things in the right direction and say, we're going to work together as a plan. Everybody's trying to work together like we always try to do in this town.
Any other question? You want to adopt it? You want to just hang on to it for a while? What do you want to do?
You're gonna go over this again, right?
Oh, yeah, well, this is just the introduction.
Okay.
As Chris said, this is a work in progress. Just to give you guys another example, Chris has been in touch with the commissioner. Well, we all have in various different levels, but from the Maine Sporting Camp Association, we wrote the guidelines for the Maine Sporting Camp Association, submitted them. They accepted them last Wednesday. We still don't have the finalization from Augusta yet, even though we're allowed to open today. So everything is still very fluid, very uncertain. But this is a starting point, as Chris said. I would like to see you guys make a motion for it. accept it and will let us, force us to keep going.
I make a motion, we endorse this letter addressed to the citizens, taxpayers, and some guests of rank.
Second.
Moved and seconded, Donnie and Cindy. Any more discussion? All in favor? Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Nice job with it. I don't like these, but I gotta tell you about it. We've all read it. We have a letter of resignation from our health officer. And it says, good evening, please consider this my notification of resignation as a local health officer in Rangeley, Maine. I refuse to be associated with a municipality that is flagrantly violating executive orders during a public health emergency. Jerry Oldham, MD.
What? Oh, not that.
I'll make a motion to accept the letter of resignation with regret from Sheridan Oldham as the Rangeley Health Officer.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. Next, we have hold on here, and we'll see. Tracy, where is the application?
It's right after.
Okay. I don't know. All right. We have an application from Lindsay Savage, the nurse at the school. You have some guidelines, right? Yeah, there we go. Actually, I don't have. Yep, there it is. Okay, the guidelines previous are just before it in my packet. And then we have a Lindsay Savage has applied for the position.
So I mean, this is very helpful, this information. Now, I guess the only question I have is, would be number 5, okay, the conflict of interest. So does the local, and knowing so little about the local health officer, so does the local health officer also oversee complaints that happen at the school? So say if someone calls the school with a concern about a living situation. And so the school says they follow up and that they resolve the case, and the person doesn't think so, and they go to the local health officer. That was the only question I had as far as the conflict of interest. And
Is the school different because it's not our school? So if they're the health officer for any of the plantations, I don't see where that would be a problem. But will she be, or is she, or is the last one been all the plantations, or does some have their own?
some have their own.
Okay.
Sherry is still the health officer for Dallas.
Okay.
So my only thing was, it's not, they're not complaining about a situation at the school. A local health officer deals with someone at risk in the community is one of, so if that was my only question, is
At risk what way?
if they're not living in a safe, in a safe home environment, maybe there's a lack of heat, maybe there's poor sanitation. So, I'm using a complete hypothetical. Say a bus driver is concerned, okay, picking up a kid, they report it to the school. I have this concern. It goes through the channels, which I'm assuming the school nurse would be a party. And they're like, okay, no, we resolved it, and and the bus driver doesn't like it. So they're like, well, I'm gonna go to the local health officer then. So that is just that was my only question. I mean, and maybe it's fine. If that was the only thing I could think of with a conflict of interest, just because, just having volunteered at the school for 10 years and just knowing more than what most, the general public knows, just because I've been involved with the kids, it's something that popped up. So I don't know if you want to appoint her interim health officer while this is looked into, and then, or because we need a health officer. I'd like this to go forward.
You have a question? If you read number 6, the local health officer may be employed on part-time or full-time basis. The officers of local health officer and town or school position may be combined when, in the opinion of municipal officers, the health needs of the public can be better served. I think she's already involved with all the educational stuff with learning about COVID, and it's on the front lines in that aspect. So I think it makes sense to have her as part of the company.
I mean, it's a possible scenario that we could be a problem here, but I didn't.
I just wanted to disclose that publicly, that's all.
If people don't like what goes on here, they go to DHS or they go to a physician somewhere
Well, the
else.
local health officer works under DHHS. They're actually with DHHS. They follow their correspondence links directly with them.
Yeah, I hear you,
No, I'm just putting it out there. Yeah.
I think we get to the point where we can try to outthink all of this, and there's obviously a higher authority that they can go to. That's because they are working with the community. I don't find it as big a deal.
Yeah.
Yep. Anything else?
Chris?
I think you should strongly consider making an interim position through the rest of the fiscal year. And then that would also give the person who serves in the interim position to make sure that they want to do it long-term, because I think that job is all of a sudden, instead of just being a, sure, I'll do it, it's got some real work to it. And so I think that if you did that for the next, 60 days, might make sense. And then that way it's a good chance for both parties to decide if it's a good piece. I think you do have a little challenge if it's somebody who's tied to another entity, but I'm sure that can be worked out contractually.
Okay, thank you. Okay, what do you want to do?
I'll make a motion to appoint Susan Savage as the right health officer.
Second.
Local health officer, not right health officer.
Any other comments, questions? Favor? Next up is a letter of resignation from our code enforcement officer. Give me a second to chart.
I'm just groaning over it.
We have received, I'm assuming everybody can hear me, we've received a letter of resignation from Tom Lillis, our code enforcement officer. He submits his letter of resignation. My final day will be June 2nd. With my son graduating from high school and other personal reasons, I have decided it's time to slow things down. And let's see, slow things down and focus on pursuing interests I have put off for years. I feel that I leave the position in a much better place than I found it. I would strongly recommend that the needs that I have identified for success code enforcement program be implemented in order to provide the kind of customer service and protection the community deserves. It's been a pleasure helping. He points out he enjoyed working with Russ, Mike, Tracy, Keith, Marty, and Kayla. provide such critical services to the residents and visitors of Rangeley. It's been an honor working with these folks. John Manager has been an outstanding boss and colleague. With his support and guidance is provided for me. I have executed my duties and it's been an honor, John. The Board of Selectmen have been incredibly supportive of my efforts. I have come to them on occasion with their approval of pursuing issues needed. Thanks very much to Dan and Ryan for all their assistance with certain violations in dangerous buildings. Thank you to the residents that have been supportive and patient as we've worked through these busy times. None of us accomplish much without assistance of others, and those I have mentioned above have made my accomplishments possible. I thank you all, and I will miss working with you and for you. Respectfully, Tom Willis. Tom did a great job. I think I could speak for the board thinking he is going to be missed. I need a motion.
We motion to accept the letter of resignation from Tom Willis as code enforcement officer with regret.
Second.
Any other comments?
And just thank you for all the hard work.
Absolutely.
Dave?
Yes, John.
Yeah, Tom has been an outstanding code enforcement officer. I think you all know that. You've seen every selectman's meeting. He gives you his report, the detail that he goes into. He's looking out for the town and for the citizens too. I mean, they're the ones that pass these ordinances. But I'm gonna miss him, and he's gonna be a hard person to replace.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, secret ballot is July 14th, August 19th, elected official workshop in Rangeley. Other business, final warrant. Any comments, questions, concerns on the final warrant? Did you all look at the warrant? I'm assuming we need a motion to accept it as presented. Is that correct, Tracy? You want us to accept it as presented? Final warrant?
Report, that's just an FYI.
Yes, an FYI, okay. Anything on it? Okay, yes, Chris?
Steve, the only question I had was on Exhibit 10A, we'd added the line item for the fire position, but there was a number that had to be calculated. Did that get calculated?
Yes, it did.
Can you read that number?
The number is 39,986 with benefits. And the benefits are not in it because we don't know what we've hired the person for. Should we hire one?
So with benefits or plus benefits?
Steve, you want me to address that?
Yeah, go ahead, Tracy.
So what we had done is we left the per diem and part-time wages in his fire budget. Because if 10A gets voted down, he still will need a part-time per diem person to help him. So if 10A is approved, we'll shift that money out to cover this position's benefits. I don't have an exact figure for what his health insurance will be, this sort of thing. But so the money is still in the fire budget to be used for the per diem if the 10A is not approved. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that seems to follow logic there. Is that similar in line to the per diem budget for last year?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. All right, any more questions on that? No. Super, thank you. All right, select board communications. There is an article in here. Thank you, Donnie, for bringing that to our attention. It's sad, I think, that our commission is.
I just thought we might want to rush them off and ask you what they're.
Yeah.
That's just something, I don't know, but this is crazy. $24,000, we get no representation.
Yes,
I'm confused because, so the last sentence The last sentence, it indicates, they made it abundantly clear, I'm guessing that the commissioners, that they do not want to ask voters whether to increase the number of county commissioners or not. She wrote, after she learned the state was going to fit it on the ballot. Right, so there's just some mixed, so is there someone, I mean, can we?
Call Julie down at Farmington to find out.
Well, I mean, first of all, it's an article,
Right,
so we can't trust.
it's a quote though.
Well, okay.
So, but yeah, I mean, is there a way to find out before we, I mean, I think Donnie's right. I think we should write a letter saying, you know,
What the heck?
but if the state's gonna put it on the November ballot, which we're unclear of.
Russell Black said to me that he didn't think it was gonna make it to the ballot. He was gonna get out of committee because of these sorts of things from the local commission. They were in attendance at the committee meeting. It doesn't report that.
Well, no, I mean, it basically, it just states 129th legislature, allowed the change to give Franklin County voters.
Russell didn't think it would pass if it was voted on, you mean?
I spoke with him prior to this coming out. He didn't think he was gonna get it out of committee.
But it did get out of committee. It did get out of committee because the 129th legislature in June of 2019 allowed the change from 3 to 5.
What I understood from him is that it's still in committee. Because she called everybody back. Write a letter. I mean, I don't have a problem with that at all.
I mean, I'll send an email to Fran Hadid, you know, just to.
I'll check into it tomorrow as well.
Yeah.
Anything else on this?
Yeah, I mean.
It's not in our bill.
I'll call Russell
Try
right
that
now.
once.
See what's left.
Yeah, after August, and if he's got,
Okay. You look up to Fran?
yeah, I'll send this to Fran.
All right.
That's just arrogance.
Need a motion to go into exec. Oh, anything else on select board communications? All right, we need a motion to go into exec.
I'm gonna make a motion.
Thanks, everyone.
Pursuant to MSRA Title 1, Chapter 13, Subchapter 1, Subsection 405.
Thank you.
For executive session.
6A, 6A personnel. That's in addition to.
I'm gonna fix it, but yeah, it's okay.
Thank you, everyone.
No, we got you.
No, it's not listed in the.
Okay.
We just-
No big
No,
deal.
it was.
Who seconded it?
Adjust it to the agenda.
No, no.
Are we all in favor? Yep, done.
Settle down.
John, we'll call you in just a second.
Okay.
And then the